Hey, Mix.
Hey James, how's everything?
Feeling good? Excited for all things go?
Me too. I think I should say that. Hello everyone. Welcome to uh, we can say that one of the last session of the All Things Go. In the past 9 weeks, we try to understand the Cardano slash Golang ecosystem, how these tools work with each other, interact with each other, data flows. We were focusing on the libraries which was developed really uh, great libraries by Blink Labs, and we started to use them. And we have started with Andamio Indexer, which is basically using these tools to filter the blockchain and store those transactions that are desired by Andamio platform and store them, and then later, provide them through some endpoints. So that was the kind of the plan, like some hands-on, kind of sessions about these libraries. So today we will continue, but I would love to show other stuff as well. Like I've been using these AI agents, and I feel that I would love to just present it or at least showcase some of this stuff that these AI agents are capable of. They are not going to replace us, as far as I know. Still, we have to, review them, their code, whatever stuff. But about automating some stuffs and whole, using the AI, these things can really be helpful. Like, if, for example, if you go to ask ChatGPT about a bug or something, you have to provide some context and going back and move forward with that chat in order to just, solve an issue. Especially if your language is kind of unknown or your code is complex, like Haskell stuff, that would be really a pain in the ass. And at the end, you would just give up. But tools like Rucord or actually the one, or even Source Graph, I mean, they have an AI called Cody AI. And there are other tools similar to these as well, like C-Line as well. But I think, again, because of the advantage Golang has to some of the other languages, and it is the simplicity of syntaxes compared to others, it is really helpful. So I would love to showcase that to you. But yeah, it might ruin your code if you are not careful. It would alter your code to the extent that you should, put away many changes. So this is not perfect, but I think this is the path things are moving on. But so yeah, but also I've set some agendas, something that I would love to talk, especially with Chris, but getting some insight with others as well. But besides all these agendas, does anyone have any question, any agenda, any topics that they would love to discuss it here? If you are working on something, if you have some doubts or something, feel free to put it in chat and I can add it here. Um, so sure, it's not like if you know it, and then if you have to put agenda right now and there are no other chance, but no, feel free to ask question in the chat. And if uh, like it would be like an agenda, I will add it here to talk about it. So yeah, feel free to add in the chat. Otherwise, I will start with these things. So I would love to review the transaction and the related database model. Um, I've been working to create a transaction model so that I can store the transaction inside this database, namely SQLite. I also decided to follow the database pattern, which I copied from. I mean, this is copied from Dingo. Uh, sure, this is not the most updated. There are changes. For example, Dingo also has datums, but I've changed. So there's a datum here as well. So I changed it. And we will look into it. And the seaboard will be stored again inside the Badger because, as Chris mentioned, it's faster to retrieve it and, to look for it, store it. So yeah, that's the thing. So the transaction structure, which we will store here in this database, will be these. Block hash, block number, slot number, well, obviously, transaction hash, inputs, outputs, reference inputs, with metadata feed. This is time to leave TTL, which sets a kind of a time limit, a time period to your transaction. Withdraws and witness, which is the part for, it is a part of transaction, but it is not a part of a quote unquote transaction body. Uh, but yeah, we'll maybe look into it. But if you have seen the last session, you understand that these parts store redeemers, Brutus scripts, some other stuff like the signature signing and stuff, and of course certificate. And these inputs and outputs, and like witnesses have also their own structure. If we look to for example, inputs, the inputs have the transaction hash. It is foreign keys. Uh, and by the way, I asked this agent to look into the Golang code and do some changes if it needs to change something or remove rat. And it's working. That's why. And also ask if you are doing something, just leave a comment. Like, don't do it without a notice. So these are its doing. So the transaction has hash an input because the UTXO ID and UTXO ID index uh, would be kind of unrelated to transaction hash. We have to have transaction hash inside these tables so that we can relate, just connect these two tables to each other. Address, amounts, assets,
All right,
which
so I just got a couple questions. Why do you have
uh,
inputs at all? And why do you have transaction outputs when you already have UTXOs?
so I ask you about these two parts.
Yeah, transaction output is just a UTXO.
Yeah. So the transaction output.
Inputs and inputs are just reference to existing UTXOs. So my point is you already have the UTXOs. These should just be refs to the existing UTXOs instead of duplicating all this.
Uh, the thing is actually, if I mean, this is the structure in my mind. I tried to bring it into code. So by inputs, I
Okay.
mean the UTXO, which is going to be consumed, and output the UTXO, which will be produced inside that transaction. And inputs here from by I mean by the where can I go to let me try to here no, let me try to go to the transaction.
I just want to let you know everything that you duplicate, you will also have to handle in rollbacks.
Mm, actually, right now I haven't thought about rollbacks, but I guess well, that's the thing. So the thing is, resolve inputs are those inputs. The one actually here you saw it. Let me. Where is it? Let me just close this. Sorry. So this is the one. Models. Yeah. So here, these inputs are the resolved inputs. So this is, no, did I?
Right, but okay, here, let me just stop. What I'm getting is you don't have to store that data if you already have it. All of those inputs are already in the database as UTXOs. You can look them up by hash and by reference already. You don't need to duplicate them. So on fetch, on retrieval, you can query two tables or three tables, right? Like you can join on these tables. You can query the reference inputs by looking up the UTXOs that the inputs reference and resolve them. You don't actually have to pre-resolve them and store the resolved copies when you already have the copies. Plus, you're having the outputs. Like you're essentially making three copies of all of your UTXOs.
So I say that I can get those UTXOs, whether they are inputs or outputs here. I mean, maybe I'm not understanding this correctly. Sorry. Uh, the inputs those UTXO is going to consume uh, will be here, right? Am I getting that right first? This is here, right?
Yes, they will be
Okay,
consumed on the ledger.
exactly. And the outputs are not the one is going to be consumed. So they are separate things, right?
Yes, but the shape of the values on the right-hand side is still an input or an output, right? When you look them up. Right. So when we resolve reference inputs, they're actually not inputs. They're outputs. Actually, I think we might have done this wrong. They're supposed to be transaction outputs. Oh wait, no, resolve. Sorry, not resolved. The resolved inputs are outputs. Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. So the point is we actually resolve them, right? Like we do that by looking them up. In fact, that's what we do in Adder explicitly is we look them up using Kupo, right? So we already have all of them in our database. There's no reason why we can't just directly look them up.
So I have I mean, I will have endpoints to just get the TX input by address, like a transaction which the inputs contain these address, not the outputs. Like in these specific functions, I do not care about outputs. I just want transaction that these inputs came from the address or one to whatever. And also same thing, I have a function, I have a I mean need for that. That's why there is this function that gets a tx by outputs. So it just look up to the outputs and not inputs. And also there is this function which tx like by any of them. It looks into both tables, inputs and outputs, and retrieve those transaction, or I mean, give me those transaction, which either have that address in the inputs or outputs, or both of them. So if I have one table, let's call it transaction output, can I have these two functions? Like I just want to get the addresses. Sorry, I just want to get transaction which the inputs contain this address or came from this address, and then not outputs. The outputs can be anything. Because of this need, I separated them to have one table for inputs and one for outputs. And here, like we have this, getter setter for the inputs, but in this transaction input, I have this kind of foreign key for transaction hash to find them. Yes, Nelson?
Yeah, I was noticing where you save the transaction CBOR, and like I was just talking with you, if I have the transaction CBOR, am able to deserialize it at least by using the CSL provided by Mesh, and that's how I'm
Yeah.
getting all of the input, output, everything in the transaction information. So do we have a similar like deserialized transaction thing in the Golang? Uh, and and my question for the rollback is like, if we're s- uh just recording the each transactions, um, what's the chance that it gets rolled? Like, I'm not sure if the transaction will be considered settled or not, if we already recorded from the header. And what's the chance that it gets rolled back in the transaction that we just saved is, yeah,
It is common enough that you will never have a consistent system if you don't account for them.
Oh,
I mean, if you run a node connected to any other nodes on the network for 24 hours and go through the logs, you'll have at least a few rollbacks in there. They're usually one block rollbacks. That's what's typical. But you'll see at least a few over a 24-hour period. It's just a natural state of how everything works. And the it's fairly transparent to most people because the rollbacks are usually one uh, block, that it's highly likely somewhere else on the network the transaction is still in someone's mempool, and that's how it essentially gets like replayed, but it's kind of by accident as a side effect. So a lot of times transactions that were rolled back end up getting included in the next block anyway. But now, if you're looking up data and you're looking up things by block or by right, you're actually looking up data incorrectly from the database, unless you also are handling the update when you see a transaction the second time. Because now a transaction, if you're ignoring essentially the rollback itself, you might see the same transaction twice. Right, you might see it, and then that block gets rolled back, and then you get another block, and the transaction is included in it again. So it just means that you now have to make sure that you're updating anything that you're tracking when that happens. So I mean, like, you can account for it if you can ignore rollbacks if you truly trust your upstream 100%, like it's a node you're running, you own, etc. Right? Then you can just always update the data based off of the current state. Right. So if it rolls back and then you get a new transaction, right, like, you can update it. The biggest issue is the things that get rolled back that don't get back onto the network at all. Because now whatever data, you might have invalid assets that you're tracking on the chain, right? You might have, assets that have been destroyed. It just no longer is consistent. And this has probably been one of the major issues that we deal with pretty much any indexer whatsoever, is dealing with the rollbacks. And in fact, it's a big issue even with dealing with Dingo. And there's a lot of stuff that we're working in right now with like the delegations and those sort of things. So, if you delegate to me as a DREP and that transaction rolls back, right? Well, you might have been delegated to a previous DREP. So we have to be able to know that and figure out how to reference that sort of stuff. And so we're ending up with a lot more cross references across the database is essentially it. And a lot of the stuff we're trying to figure out how to remove as much as possible so that we're tracking less. But most of it ends up to where what we're ending up doing is getting more things that are added into higher level abstractions. And so, like, if you look at what we're doing, like right now, currently with pool, for example, which I think you might have removed. And if you're, yeah, but like if you look at pool, no, you just have the pool registration and retirement. Okay, so you don't have pool in here. Dingo has a pool tracker too, and the way that it works is it has other tables that it references. It's a many to one and one to many in some cases, many to many in others. For like things like relays and that sort of stuff. And my point is the right answer for most of these things is you want to reference them And with Gorm, we can have it automatically reference stuff by ID. So like if you look at pool, and you'll see everything now is under pool for pool. So it makes it a little easier to keep track of. Skip this one here real quick, because when you get pool, you'll see we actually fetch just by ID and we return the whole thing. Um, yeah, just by pool key hash. But if you look at like the set pool, you can see where we get pretty crazy. Or here, even the get pool registration. You see all this where
Yeah.
we're getting into all of the sub items and things like that. So if you look, down at like here, set pool registration that comes from it, we end up trying to get the pool first and then trying to update it because a pool may or may not have been updated, all of the items from previous, right? So anyway, my point is you can see where it includes, if you actually look at the pool model, go up to models, pool from SQLite, go up to models, and then look at pool here instead, and you can see what it looks like. And this is what I mean by the shape of the type. So it has the pool registration owner relay, all that stuff, kind of like what you were doing, right? The same
Yeah.
thing. The point is the UTXOs already have all of the stuff you need. So you only need to be able to get them by reference. And the important part is if you scroll down and you look at like pool registration owner or whatever, you'll see the important part is what ties it back is the pool ID, right? So pool ID right here, that matches pool.id. Gorm takes care of this stuff automatically because you have a list of pool registrations above, and this has the pool ID in it, just like that has, you see, the registration owner has both pool registration ID and pool ID in it. So the relations is automatically set up by Gorm when you do this. So my point is you might just need to add transaction, to like the transaction ID to various UTXOs, right?
Like here, I have the transaction hash or ID.
Right, right. But I mean, it has to match it has to say transaction ID to match the ID field of transaction. Right. This is not the hash. This is the internal primary key of the SQLite database. This is not the transaction ID as far as the chain is concerned. This is the transaction dot ID of the internal integer used by the database for referencing. So in other words, you're tying them together by reference, but not necessarily by the actual transaction hash like this with the foreign key that you did. Instead of doing it that way, if you're tying it by the actual ID reference, it's actually faster and better, and it's native to the database. And Gorm takes care of that stuff for you.
And I mean, let's also ask another question. But one point, if we delay these inputs, like putting transaction inside a database after 5 block confirmation, like,
Mhm.
is it possible to kind of eliminate rollbacks, like just waiting?
I mean, yes, but that's the risk, right? Is how many do you want to wait, right? That's, where people generally say confirmations and how many they want to wait for. I mean, if you're Coinbase, it waits 10 confirmations.
I
It's
don't
good
know.
enough for them. It's good enough for me, right? I mean, some things wait fewer. I think Drip Drops is like 4 confirmations or something like that. Toasty Drop is 6, right? So I mean, it's you get to choose. The confidence level goes up significantly with every block. That's really
Yeah.
what it boils down to. So, you just choose which level of confidence you want. Once you're hitting, 4, 5, 9s, it doesn't really matter, right?
So it won't roll back after 5 blocks. I mean, that's
It
very unlikely.
probably will not. The probability of it happening
It's
becomes,
very
much, much, much smaller.
small.
It can happen up to 2,160 blocks. That's what the parameter is set to. The likelihood of that once you start getting to that number is extremely small, unless you're talking about like, major global.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
question.
Unless you're talking about major global catastrophes, like the Pacific Ocean just falls off the earth or something, and
Yeah,
all
okay.
cables are destroyed, and I mean, like, yeah,
Probably on that time, no one cares about,
yeah. No one
its
cares
endpoint,
exactly.
why it returns error. So,
Right, right, right. Oops, my transaction errored.
uh, and also Nelson asked a question about the serialization of a transaction. So let's say this indexer also receive a CBOR, the transaction, whole transaction CBOR. Is it possible? I mean, do we have a function? I'm pretty sure we have something like unmarshaled CBOR, and then that function
Yeah, that's
basically.
not what you want to do. So unmarshalling CBOR will just still give you raw CBOR. And so in Goroboros, in our ledger, we have two functions. We have a function to get the transaction type, because you need to know which like era it is, right? You need to know which transaction type it is, so you know which shape it is. And that's just the ledger transaction there. Yeah. Yeah, you see this. So we have new transaction for CBOR, but you see it takes a type, right?
Yeah.
So we also have the way to get the transaction type. So scroll down and you'll see we have the keep going, keep going. It's right. Keep going.
Determine transaction type.
Determine transaction type. Right. So now you can pass the raw CBOR in and we determine which transaction type it is, and then you can convert that to our ledger transaction type with new transaction from CBOR and the type. And then you end up with a Goroboros, a deserialized Goroboros ledger transaction type that you can do whatever with.
Mhm.
Right? It
Thank you.
has the bytes, it has, all the things you can call all the functions, and they're under common transaction here.
Yeah.
It's an
Thank you.
alias. Yep.
Yes, Nelson, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was thinking about so in our indexer, our data source, like what we're trusting here is the Ether or Dingo, right? So uh
Just other. We
yeah,
we are not using Dingo as of well,
right, Ether. So
until it will be added to the adder.
so Ether already handles rollbacks, I think. So uh would it be helpful to use a relational database and we just at the top level, we store the blocks and then the transactions are part of the block. So when a block gets rolled back, we just delete that block from our database and the following, following elements in that relational database, right?
I'm not sure adder actually handles the rollbacks. We, as an indexer, should handle that. Am I right, Chris? Like adder, or does it?
I think other, yeah, sends rollback events. Yeah.
You see, probably when the let's
It
event.
does not automatically handle them. No.
Yeah.
It creates a rollback event type that you are to handle, because we don't know what your data looks like. We don't know what you're doing with it downstream. So we have no way to undo or whatever on a rollback. So the only thing that we do is, we send the rollback event, and then we actually, trigger the handler, and it's up to the handler to actually handle the event. Yeah, you can see here it's really simple. It's just the hash and the slot number. That's the only piece of information that we get from the chain when there's a rollback, and that's the only bit of information that gets sent from adder when there's a rollback. So
So if
you're
it is a rollback, I can get the block hash and the slot number, and since I have them stored here in the transaction uh, table, I can say that just remove this transaction, by the block hash and block number or block number and slot numbers. Just remove it.
Yes, that's exactly what you would need to do.
See.
And regarding the deserialization of CBOR, Chris, I don't know if you're aware of the like CSL deserialized function. You simply just provide the transaction CBOR as a parameter, and then it spits out a structured JSON data of the whole transaction. Mix, can I quickly share my screen just
Sure,
to
definitely.
show this
Let
part?
me stop sharing. By the way, please try to share to see do you have the permission. If not, James will give you.
Should be
I'm
good.
not sure that you have the permission.
Oh, I have to rejoin. Uh, yeah, I'll just
All right, but yeah. So I mean, I know some of what he's trying to get to about the way that it evaluates the transaction, and we just chose to do it as two pieces because in most cases we know what the transaction type is ahead of time, so we can save time. If you already know what the transaction type, like if you're generating it, there's no reason for us to be able to, or sorry, there's no reason why we don't already know what it is. So we didn't want to have to do deserialization attempts to be able to figure out what the shape is, because the main issue is the transaction types don't actually tell you what the transaction type is anywhere in the transaction. Right. So the answer is you figure it out by the shape of the transaction. And so if you already know what it is ahead of time, we don't have to pay that cost. So that was the reason why we chose to keep them as two separate functions.
Mhm.
We could actually create a function that, figures it out from the CBORD directly. And all it would be doing is the same thing, is just doing the two steps. So yeah, I'm very curious of what Nelson was looking for specifically.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm talking about this thing where like we have this tool in CSL where you just put the whole transaction CBOR string, right? Oh wait, that was not it. Where is it? Yeah. So yeah, this is decoded by CSL, a transaction and network. We just put in the transaction CBOR and it just spit out a structured JSON object, which has all of it. It deserializes by itself. So how like is there anything something like this in the Golang ecosystem? That's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, I exactly what I just said.
So the Goroboros like
Yeah,
um
I mean, here you want it. You're looking at it in JSON instead of looking at it as a, you
right.
know,
Object.
raw Go object. But I mean, it's the same thing.
Yep.
You decode it to a Go object, and then if you want to deserialize it or to JSON, you can do so. Um, So I mean, yeah, that's what that new transaction from Seaboard does is it reads the raw bytes and converts it into, the deserialized body shape. And in the case of Go, we're deserializing it into an interface because there's multiple shapes, right? So we have to figure out the right one for the right era and all that sort of stuff. Right. And they're doing the same thing. They're just doing it behind the scenes, here. So
Although the user
Yeah.
have to determine that is this the transaction and what would be the type. Whereas in the Golang, there is a function to determine that, but as Chris mentioned, there will be a little bit of cost. Just, it would be kind of expensive. Like, if you know that beforehand, like this is a transaction from Conway. It's the newest, or from the newest block. So definitely it's Conway. It's not Byron or something or Shelley. So definitely you don't need to, go through that finding the type. So you don't need to determine it like in hand or manually. And then you can just deserialize it. And once you deserialize that, you will get the transaction. And that transaction, here we can see that, just let me go to transaction. We have, the seaboard. Again, we can get all the seaboard stuff. And serialization to the JSON type. I don't see it, but I won't think that it would be that much.
So there's another function to determine which TX type it is, right? So that we can just combine those two and just take
Yeah.
the CBOR bytes as input rather than the type and the CBOR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can check that out.
if you want, let me share the link to this exactly. So it should be Gourous ledger tx.go. Do we have Gourous here? Ledger tx.go. So, nope, ledger common. No, it should be just ledger. Ledger tx.go can find these functions. Let me share it in the chat. I'm going to share it in the agenda as well. There should be, yeah. So actually my next question is the understanding the polluted data. Something that I didn't get like to fully understand. This is this part. We have a polluted data in the witness set. This is, and it is it is a slice of polluted data, or just I guess it's just one seaboard. I'm not sure about that. So what is this polluted data exactly? It is the one that's carried with redeemers,
Shouldn't that be the redeemer?
but redeemer itself has the values, and that values, if you provide the inputs, I mean the index and the redeemer tag, you will get the CBOR, of course X unit. So this CBOR is the redeemer data, or I mean the data attached to that redeemer. This is the question that maybe I'm mistaken. So this Plutus data and this value which we get it, and here I try to actually get that. So here I get the redeemers first. Then we have the redeemer tags. Spend means cert reward. I don't think we will have, I mean, as we discussed, voting proposal. These are just constant. See the 3, like 2, etc. And then there are these 2 loops. One would be through these guys, just going through this kind of this list, and then getting the indexes of, for example, span indexes of the mean, the indexes of cert, etc. And then based on that index, again, that list, going to getting the values. I mean, the value would be the CBOR. And I assume this CBOR is the what, I mean, at least this AI was trying to understand. This value is the one that we are looking for a historian. This is the redeemer values, or I mean the CBOR or the data. Am I right, Chris, or there is something that I'm missing? Like, so this Polotus data is the actual CBOR for redeemers. I think he's busy.
I'm
So,
not sure.
you see, so okay, let me repeat my question. We have a Polotus data here in transaction witness set. Okay, And we have here, we can retrieve these CBOR again from the redeemers. So my question is, first of all, what is Plutus data, and is this the redeemer's data? Like, what is exactly this Plutus data in our witness, the transaction witness?
Is it possibly Redeemer plus datum because you need the correct datum to unlock a transaction?
But here we have the datum in the outputs.
Yeah, but for signing you need it because of if you think of if the datum is a hash, then you need to provide the correct datum in clear string and clear format.
Right. Datum doesn't always exist in the transaction output. Sometimes it's a hash instead, and you don't actually have the full datum.
So what is this Plutus data?
Yeah, I guess it would be the datum unhashed.
I don't know. That's something I don't know. Like
Yeah, I mean,
define.
you're asking the exact specifications of something from the ledger spec. I mean, the answer I would look at is I would go and look at the shape of it in Goroboros as far as the actual implementation instead of the interface. So I would go look at what
CDDL?
Alonzo. No, the Alonzo transaction witnesses, right? And it'll tell you exactly what it is because this is an interface, right? So you need to like look at where you're getting the actual thing. So it's going to be an Alonzo, right? And then you're going to have a witness in here.
Transaction witness set, Alonso witness.
Yeah. See, so there's an Alonzo transaction witness set, right? And so this will tell you like what do we get here? What do we have? We have Bootstrap with WS Plutus data. So it's whatever ends up in in index 4. So it's the witness set Plutus data. I don't know what it actually is. Uh,
Let me go to the CDDL,
yep.
CDDL Alonso ledger. Because we have a tag here, it's 4. Probably we can find what is it exactly. And I wonder if it is, sorry, where is it? This is Babbage. Alonso, MPL, CDDL, Alonso CDDL. So, well, let me. Transaction witnesses. So, public key signature, chain code attributes, byte with the data from transaction. Okay, so datum from transaction witness set, the value of field 4. So if we have a datum in some transaction, like probably this is the old one, or maybe it's going to deprecate it somehow. Anyway, so as far as this data consists of redeemer transaction of value of 5, the datums from the transaction witness. You were right, Adrian, about the datum will be included in witness. The value of field 4, and so I guess this is deprecated, to be honest.
Why should that be deprecated?
I don't see this datum. Have you seen datum inside the transaction witness? I
You
just,
don't see it if it is an inline datum, I assume.
okay, so if it is embedded, Red Hat.
If it's a hash, yeah. If the datum is a datum hash, then you don't see then you will see it there.
I see. Okay.
Because if you think of building a transaction, you need to provide it if you want to unlock something with a datum hash.
Like this is an example of the transaction, and this is the witness part.
But this one is with an inland datum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So we
because
have
you
four.
don't need to yeah, it would yeah, you don't need to do the work of looking for the datum if it's already in clear text available.
I see. So if it is embedded or probably attached, it will be added here. As you can guys see, the index, which was set in the CBOR, I mean, here 5 trees is at 0, and here again we can see it in the CDDL. In fact, if you deserialize the CBOR, which I just did, this was a transaction CBOR. In the witness set, we can see, this is the witness set, you can see the 5, it would be the redeemers. And this is the data attached to that redeemer that we need. And this is, so there will be a 4, index 4 and the storing data. Okay, thank you. And yeah, that's clear my question. And the next deserialization of redeemers, I think I got that. Deserialization of native scripts. So kind of similar question I have about native scripts. Well, let's see that we can be follow the same path. So we have native script here. And what I wanted to exactly to do is so I'm going to get a native script. And if I look into it, actually, this is a native script. I don't think this is a list of native scripts, or is it? Is it the list? I'm not sure.
It's a list.
It is a list. So, okay, we get a list of native script, and let's say just we have one. I just want for tested 0, and then we will get items and a Marshall Seaboard. I didn't get these two. I didn't understand these two. Like, if I want to store native script of a transaction at this indexer, I should probably store the CBOR, but not on Marshall CBOR, and also the items. And first of all, I don't exactly know what is the items, so maybe again we can look into it. Like, what is this item exactly? So this is item, and this is the function for um, marshalling the CBOR. I get the IDs. So does this item means these IDs or no? Public key and if for p-values, so that's something that I didn't understand. That if, for example, we want to store this native script inside our database.
A native script can have more than one type and more than one thing in it. So that's what this is saying, is these are all different shapes that the native script can actually be when you go to unmarshal it.
Is it possible to just store the CBOR without unmarshalling it? Like, if it is,
You already have the CBOR.
how come? Because this doesn't give me a
Oh, wait, no,
CBOR.
sorry, no, it returns the native, the actual native scripts
Yeah.
interface.
It just, and inside that interface, there is items, and that's all. I mean, sorry, inside that destroy is just item and unmarshal CBOR.
Yep. And each item is one of those things. And you'll see each one of those things we already store the CBOR for. That's the CBOR structures array stuff that we have in here. That's telling us, no, wait, sorry, we don't store the CBOR. We only have, we're just telling it how to deserialize.
Yeah, I hear something I didn't quite get that. If we're getting, so this is the data I need supposed to give to this unmarshal CBOR. If I use it, for example, here, Marshall, and that, and then what would be that data look like? So that this thing, this CBOR, right, unmarshal CBOR will end up into that. Probably either of these. Yeah. So yeah. So I didn't find the CBOR of this native script, whereas we have I think we have them. Like this is like if we go, I'll pull it to, let's say, script. We don't have anything. Would be just the byte, like this is the whole contract, whole thing. So we can store it. Like if also in the transaction mm, uh, witness, I sorry, we'll store it. But for native script, okay, okay. Thank you, Chris, for being here. Really appreciate. Take care.
Chris.
So, yeah, these were my question about that, and well, I will actually later ask about Chris because, to be honest, maybe, I'm not understanding entirely that Chris was saying why these two are different. And my explanation, I don't know that was sufficient for him to say that I have two functions to get the transaction based on addresses or based on other things. I mean, this is just a one function. It can be, like here, get transaction based on just the address, of course, and the input. I mean, just input, looking into the inputs, no output whatsoever. Sometimes I think we will need it sometimes. Same thing for the outputs. Like there are transactions goes to the user wallet. It's like the end of the process or something. We just want to look into those transactions. That one of the outputs would be like the user address or the address. It doesn't matter by the way the address of user. It can be contract, whatever. It's any address. I'm sure both of them. Just so I thought that this has to be two. I mean, again, based on consulting with AI, it has to be two things. So one thing I can show you about is I think the AI thingy. If no one has any question or something, talk about. So I really again recommend this thing. Let me show you. So there was this tree function that was commented out, and I don't think I've implemented that. No, we have them. Okay, we have all of them. Okay, so let me see. There is some error here. So we have a TX hash. Let's say that this is a set output. So this function. Okay, just say that we have a TX hash bytes. It never been used, and actually, I guess this is a wrong function because just going to set output on TX hash. So I'm just going to ask this AI. We have ask architect code whatever. I'm just going to say that inside the SQLite, I'm going to give the address, I mean the location, transaction dot go. There is a set output function, which one of the inputs never been used. Analyze it, uh, and if needed, modify it. And if even this prompt, of course, wrong, we can just, there is this enhance prompt, just can enhance it again to make it analyze the set output function within any unused input parameters if unused the function selection parameters. To use it or remove it. So I'll get, and it just go and read this file. Interesting thing is that it wants to go to other read files, and it just edited this function. It found some errors. As you can see, it's just going back and forth to finish the task, and that task is just completed, just without any things. I can go look into the thing, like what exactly this thing did. Sure, it just removed that. I didn't say which was the input, what was the issue. Just remove that and modify that, and that's it. Just, and the task is complete. I analyze this function, confirm that tx parameter was unused. That's it. So this is an example. We can go to more, detail if you guys want to play with this thing more. If you want more comments, understanding, but something interesting that does have is called architect or orchestra. And these two modes will help to plan. And in fact, like let me use it in architecture and say that here I have like models. I have my stores. So now I think the SQLite is great. So in the transaction, in the metadata, I have a transaction which the difference between this transaction structure and that one in SQL is just this guy CBOR. Because the CBOR, as you can see, it's stored in another database called Badger because of how fast it can be, and it is retrievable by TX hash because TX hash is unique. So I just want to, like, here we have function get TX by hash and all these things. So I'm going to ask actually that analyze the SQLite folder and method of folder for transaction and its related structs, and then analyze where is this database? Analyze database slash transaction.go and use all the setter and getter available in available and implement them here. You see that how messed up my typing is. Just want to show you, like, if I just want to enhance it, let's just like as messy as we can write it, and like very informal. Um, and so that would be, and we can say also, it is, this is just, by the way, the planning. So, and the thing is that I want to the agent goes through all those transactions, getter and setter, write enough enough function here. Like for example, I have get tx by any address or output, input, whatever. So implement any missing functions at that file. I just try to enhance it. Although, again, the AI will understand this bad language, but analyze the SQLite database schema related code structure definition for transaction, review the existing calling database transaction, who based on this analyze, identify, implement any missing setter getter methods required for transaction data within transaction. I think that's good. So we just can just close this task and start another task. And I just want to show you that what would be the architecture look like. Uh, so yeah, we got just a bunch of errors. Probably I hit some APIs. Like I
Oh,
hit
you're asking
API.
a lot of it.
Am I?
Maybe.
But I mean, the API was working fine. I bet this is my problem with my network. As you can see, it's just working. So it went to read those, just understand all these functions, reading all these commands. Actually, it uploads my code. By the way, if you're caring about privacy, just forget about this. But anyway, these codes are just check it in. So now this asking me a question, which field of a transaction struggling data should have getter and setter? All field in transactions are only the transaction has a transaction zero field, only the field that do not have corresponding method and models. And also I can modify and I can click on any of them, but I can modify it and say only the field that you think are necessary for an indexer to have an endpoint and retrieving data from in the. So again, let me modify it again. Even this is I have two DATs. Other essential fields of similar require indexer for implementing. So I click it. Just try to again understand the whole thing, just upload codes, whatever. API request is quite actually see that all these things you can read through it, but it is just going through all of it. Recognize. So it just made a yes, I approved. I mean, it just made a plan. My failure use the tool as I have presented the plan to get a transaction. Yes, I approve. What would be the plan? This is the plan. Identify the missing methods. This is the get ID, all these block hash, set number, all of that. And I can say that, yeah, I approve. The plan looks good, but I would like to make some changes. I have question about this plan. Let's say I approve the plan. Proceed. It just changed the mode from architecture to uh, it is interesting that if you want, it can write the plan for you. No, you don't need to write the plan into the file. Just change the mode from the artifact as it start to code. And now I start to again reading the file, going through the whole editing. Just see that now it's just edits, just added all these function in just one go. All, and that's it. Just all this function was just added simply. Like get transaction receive or all this that. So yeah, well, it's quite a thing. Also, there is this thing called MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is going to act as a SDK, like a future SDK. Basically, what it says or what it means that if your LLM wants to interact with your platform, or if someone wants to interact with your platform codes, whatever, like let's say that code wants to do some GitHub push or wants to create an image and post it on Twitter or something, just understanding Twitter, how it works, what are the APIs, endpoints, etc. So if you want to just, do it by yourself, you have to go through all these prompts, and putting all that in the context. But there are community made actually servers, which is, let me show you in a better, like here, I don't think it would be, that your LLM will use that MCP, like here. And that for example, repository manager, file operator. So let's say the GitHub. It just use this GitHub, like MCP GitHub, to understand GitHub, its endpoint, whatever, how it works, dynamics, and then doing all those actions. So it's like giving a context to your agent, your AI. And like even Scholar, it's like we have, I mean, it is just a starting. There are many others as well. It's just getting, and hopefully we'll have something for Andamio as well, so that if someone wants to use Andamio for their agents, that MCP provides enough context for interacting with Andamio. Like what is Andamio, how it is working, endpoints, etc. So let me share this inside chat as well. And Nelson says that, sorry, I just saw it in the chat package. So Cyborgs got it working. That's what would you please just literally explain or just share your screen? Like, how does that look like? Like, is it
Yeah,
look like a JSON or it's just an ugly
it
object?
yeah, it has a lot of byte byte data, so it's not as easy to read as the CSL output we have. I can share my screen.
Sure, sure. But yeah, if you guys have question, I mean, do you guys have a question about this AI stuff, AI thinking? If not, just try it. We have Rucode and we have C-Line. As far as I know, these tools are just working and try it. But again, be careful, really, really be careful about all this modification. Those that just simply just can easily ruin your code. As you can see, this can add hundreds of line of code suddenly to many files at once. So really, really be careful. And that's it. So let me stop sharing. But probably this is the future that we developer will just sit and control an army of agents and reading the codes, and again another agent to read even those codes. But it is really interesting that it's happening. Anyway, go ahead, Nelson. So
Yeah, so I have the CBOR string. I'm just converting it into bytes bytes array, and
okay,
then just determining the type, and then just getting the transaction from it. Um, and it has a lot, like it almost has the same data as I showed you before. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, but a lot of these
Yeah, it
things
has
are
to be
still in
deserialized much more
byte string.
in
Yeah,
details.
so it would be nice for like, yeah, it would be a nice utility to create something that we can take this TX and dump it into a, yeah, JSON object kind of thing, right? So spit it out similar to what the mesh CSL spits, and to convert it into JSON or something like that. Um,
So
yeah, I
you
can,
want to try it with the AI?
yeah, I think yeah, I'll try
Just
to
if
do
you
it.
want, like you just install a root code extension in your VS Code and just tell it that hey, I have this main.go file and it returns to me or prints a Golang object, but I want to have a pretty wide JSON printed or as an input for the transaction, and that's it. Just do it for me, and see how it can do it for you. Like, does it work or not? I
Yeah,
think that would be something just, and just like remember about all this permission, like there are some permission to do other stuff outside of that repository. Don't give that permission, at least if you're not sure about that action or execution. So yeah, just easily uh, can manage it. Uh,
yeah.
okay.
I can show the code in uh here. So like I have the CBOR string, and what I'm getting at the end of this is the like deserialized transaction, and how I'm doing it with mesh is simply just providing the hash to this function, right?
And to JSON, and it
Yeah, and
just
the JSON.
converted to JSON.
And yeah, we get a pretty, I'm running this, it should pop up anytime, but it results to a similar object where we see here, like this is the same.
Yeah, let's look. Would you please post that CBOT? I just want to do it now for people to see it. Uh,
The CBOR or which one?
yeah, the CBOT. I copy the code here.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Right. Okay.
open,
Sure.
well, open a
Thanks.
new folder or no?
Yeah, I shared it in the Discord.
Okay,
Should,
so let me open it, or I mean, let me share my screen. It would be interesting to see. So I'm going to open a new folder here in Andamio, and let's say that DC. Can I just, will you create that? No. So let me just search this thing. What just happened? Okay. Control of the search. Okay. CD Andamio. See, I'm here, mkdir, DC, cddc, and here dot touch main dot go. Yeah. So here, let me open a new window. Connect to hosting. Oh shit. No. Show local. So Discord, Namio. DC. Open. Yes, I trust this thing. Let's. So now let me go to the Discord and copy. One more. Okay. So okay, we have the seaboard. Let's go mode init and go mode tidy. Wasn't this the way? Let me remember that how we should start a project with go mode init. Okay, so go mode init git up DC. Yep, tidy. Okay.
So it would be easier to visualize with a smaller transaction because that's a huge transaction, and yeah.
Let's be. I don't know. Maybe, I think we can, just put this thing in the challenge. So let's say I have this uh, um, main function deserialize the seaboard X, but it prints into an Golang object with lots of bytes here and there. I want you to convert all the transaction type and its nested types and a struct into predefined JSON so that I can print it and read it properly. So, okay, I just wrote on a story. Let me enhance this. And let's see. So I'm going to go for architecture first. Reading. Yes, convert the TXR to JSON. I want to convert specific part. Yep. Convert it to JSON. So you see that it just gave me a picture as well to see what is this plan actually look like. Like it just goes from start, decode, seaboard, determine transaction, and that all this thing, Marshall, object, handle, all of it, and ends. So now plan looks good. Proceed with it. Jesus, this is really big seaboard, but anyway. Write the plan in Markdown. No need to write the plan. Just switch the mode and start implementing.
I sent you a much smaller seaboard.
It's fine. I mean, let's see how can this thing with all this, bigger stuff can do it. So if it is, so yeah, that's a problem that I face many times, like too many requests. And we are about the end of the session, but if this thing just continue, like, yeah, just retry. but let me convert. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll make it smaller. Although it doesn't matter that much for this thing, as far as I understand. So yeah, let's see it. So it says that it is okay. So let's run the command. So I can just say run the commands and it failed. So what is that? Uh, it failed with, so I just can continue. Hey, the task is not finished. Let's continue. I'm thinking, yep, that they've changed something. 20, not use some select. Ah, says still we have a bunch of errors.
Yeah, I also got the same error. That's because the list index that's trying to pass there is a pointer to another element in the object. So yeah, it cannot just Marcel it into JSON
Did you
for the
get
point.
that error from using this AI agent or just?
No, no. I'm just saying the error in the terminal.
Uh-huh. So yeah, this thing just went to find the the kind, doing some other stuff. Actually, it's too many things just to read. But just imported and things are for now looking good. Let's run the command. Yeah, I fell. And interestingly, so when I get this error, automatically, I mean that's the thing, can go and go through that error and read it, understand it, and I guess send it back. So this loop, this back and forth between terminal, the error, whatever, it just goes through an error until it is successful, you know. Yeah, you should have. I mean, this is, by the way, a free API if you want to Google Gemini. It's pretty good, but Anthropic, as I've heard, it's the best for programming. But again, Gemini,
It's
I'm using the.
noticeably better. Yeah,
Is it really?
it
I
is.
didn't. I never use it because it's, you know, I have to pay something I
No,
cannot
well,
buy.
that's the question we're all asking right now. It's like, what is this stuff worth, right? But
Actually, it shows the price here as well, that how much it will cost you
for
if it.
each call, yeah, yeah. Claude Code has that on the command line too now. Um, but yeah, I was playing around with it the other day, and when my when my settings reverted from Sonnet 3.7 to one of the ChatGPT solutions. I didn't notice that it happened, but I noticed the results in the quality were just
Worse?
remarkably different. I was so much worse. And I was like, what's
Wow.
going on here? And I checked the settings. Sure enough, the source had changed. I was like, okay, wow, that is impressive. It is amazing. You start to get a feeling of like the personality of each of these models.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, one day actually we will get. Yeah, I like Anthropic. This guy is like I'm my employee. I love it. The others are just wasting my time. I'm going to fire that AI very soon. But yeah, we are at the end of the meeting. But please check this out. After if I got the correct code, I will post it in the channel. I mean, the All Things Goes channel. Unfortunately, I won't be able to meet you guys next week, but there are plenty things to talk about. I've already pushed that code, all these indexer, inside. Let me share the repository here as well in the chat if you want to check it out. But I'm going to put it here as well very quickly. Yeah, and let me share this page for if you want to, yeah, on visit websites. It's yet here in the chat. But again, thank you very much. It was really, really fun and productive working with you all and building this stuff. I hope we will continue building this thing, finishing, and of course, building more things. But please, if you have any question or feedback, feel free to post your message in
Yes,
the
sir.
All Things Go channel.
Keep it going. Thanks, Mix, and more to come.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you, Newt. Have a great day and night. See you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye.